Hello everyone and welcome to this Holy Grail Games video. My name's Georgina and today I'm here with Jamie.
Hey guys.
And we are going to be talking to you about Dominations Road to Civilization, more specifically, the expansions. So we are going to be talking to you about Hegemon, which is the first expansion in a series of 4 for the game. This is the simplest expansion that you can purchase for Dominations and it's available in stores right now.
Indeed.
So the purpose of this video is to give you a quick presentation of the theme of the expansion and what it's all about. We're going to tell you how to play with it, and then we'll have a quick discussion of what it brings to the game. What's the point?
So you guys, once this video is done, you know basically all there is to know about the expansion and whether you think it will suit your games.
Yeah, absolutely. So Hegemon actually adds 2 new modules to your games of Dominations. So first of all, it adds the Hegemon.
Makes sense, it's the name.
As the name would suggest. So this is like a supreme power that comes to replace the traditional objective cards that you would usually play with in a game of Dominations. You and all of the other players are going to be fighting to impress this supreme ruler who is going to come up with new objectives for you to accomplish each age. At the end of each age, obviously this ruler is no longer around and is replaced by another one whose requests and desires will be different. So each age, these random objectives are going to come out and you pretty much have to decide, are you going to try and do them or are you going to just continue with the strategy that you had? So, yeah, are you going to let it do something to the strategy that you originally planned out or are you going to adapt? The second module is called Omens. So Omens are random event cards, which are drawn every time a Locus is formed. And they also bring some changing conditions to the game and make it a bit trickier.
It depends. It throws a bit of variety into the game. Yeah. Some people do like this kind of random aspect that can come along. Some don't. Once again, though, it is a module. You can play with both or just one or the other. Completely up to you.
Absolutely. So you can mix and match these however you want and use them to just spice up your games of Dominations while you're still getting to grips with the game.
Exactly.
So let's explain how it works.
So, as Georgina mentions, normally you have these objective cards during the game. If you play Dominations, you know what this is. Yep. Objective cards give you a little bit of direction in the game. You know, Dominations is a game with lots of options, let's call it like that. And normally every player starts with a choice of these, they choose one, and during the game they can accomplish the objectives that are written on it in order to gain some points at the end of the game. And incidentally, it allows you to decide, it gives you a bit of direction, should I start with this or rather do this? This gives you a little bit of a starting block,
It gives you an idea of where to go, because there's a lot of stuff to do.
But with Hegemon, we get rid of those. So during the setup phase, you won't be distributing objective cards, you'll actually be setting up the Hegemon box, which is very easy to set up, and I will explain it as we go along. So instead of having fixed objectives for each player, now players have a set of objectives, which, as Georgina mentioned, will change, may change, not forcibly, throughout the game with different criteria. And now you have the option of, well, do I follow these objectives? Do I not follow these objectives and let the opponents have their points? You know, what do we do? So basically, during setup, there are 2 objectives which are always on, or rather always available, the most influence and the most monument levels in their tree of civilization. And basically, those are always there. They never change. And for those of you that have played Dominations with the standard objective cards, they will sound very similar. Quite a few cards have those kind of criteria. In fact, all the criteria that can pop up here do appear on standard objective cards. The difference is that these 3, so we have one based on cities, one based on knowledge cards, and one based on notices, are random. So they are drawn randomly at the start of the game.
Yep.
They have different criteria. So for example, who has the most cities, who has the most advanced knowledge cards, and who has the most orange notices in their tree.
Yeah, so this would mean the most advanced mastery cards, so ones that have been flipped over to their black side.
Exactly.
In their tree of civilization.
That's the one. So nothing changes during the standard age. You play your age, and then at the end of the age, you actually total up who has the most of each. With, of course, just like with everything else in the game, tiebreakers being decided by player order.
Yes.
So who has the most initiative, who has the most monument levels, who has the most cities, the most advanced mastery cards, and the most orange notices. If you do have the most, or you are tied, but you are before the other player in player order, you gain 10 points. Yeah. Then, at the beginning of the next stage, before the first player's turn, you take each of these 3 tiles, you put them back into their packs, you shuffle them quickly, you redraw them, up, this one as well, show you guys how it's done. Obviously, you will shuffle them a bit more detailed or a bit more thoroughly than what I am doing. Hup, take your third packet, shuffle it, draw a new one, and there we go. Now we have our objectives for the second age. So those of you that have been paying attention, now it's who has the most cities of level 2 or 3, who has the most blue notices, but also it's still advanced knowledge cards, mastery cards, sorry.
Yeah.
So the objectives have changed, but not totally, and that will be the case for age 3 as well. And that is the objectives.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Yes, absolutely.
But that's not the only module in the game, as we mentioned.
It isn't. So we also have Omens. So as you can see in the cool little box insert here, we also have the deck of Omen cards, which is going to be here all the time. What's basically going to happen is every single time a player closes a Locus, so to remind you guys, that is when you are placing down your triangular land tiles and you create a full wheel of 6. Every time you do that, you're going to draw an Omen card.
There you go.
So these can be good or bad. Draw the first one to give you an example.
Many different effects.
So yeah, the red fiery ones are bad characteristically. So for example, this one is at the start of a player's turn, they must lose 1 knowledge point in craft. Yep. If they cannot, they lose 1 victory point. Indeed. So that's pretty.
That changes how you might want to do things. If you have plenty of craft, it's not too much of an issue, but it could be.
Yeah.
And if you don't, do you want to lose points, or do you want to somehow generate more craft in order to not lose points? Is this going to stick around for a while? Isn't it? It just depends how many notices are formed and how quickly.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
These effects can be permanent, i.e. they remain until the card changes, or they can be one-offs, which is as the card is drawn, the effect is resolved, and then it does nothing more.
Yeah.
As new cards are drawn, you place them in front of the old one, and the ones behind it become the discard pile, as it were.
Exactly.
There are plenty of cards in there, so good luck getting through the entire deck.
Yes.
Should you get through the deck, you reshuffle, you redraw.
Yeah.
Simple stuff.
I was just going to see if we perhaps had an example of a nice one. There we go. So the blue ones are the positive ones, and they can have pretty cool effects, actually, that can really give you a bit of a helping hand. Obviously, the cool thing about these is you choose when these get set off. So if there's a card that you particularly hate and you really want to get rid of it, have a look if there's a Locus possibility and close it off. If you're finding that perhaps an opponent is benefiting too much from a card like this, you can also choose to close a Locus to cut them off from that positive effect.
Indeed, yeah.
But that's not all. There is one more additional element that this expansion adds to the game, and that is the Oracle card here. So the Oracle card is a card that replaces the High Priest, if you wish to, obviously. And basically the Oracle gives you a little bit more visibility over the Omens and what they're going to do. So
when it's you that is drawing the card. So you could decide, do I want this good effect, do I want this bad effect for somebody else?
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Yeah, so to give you guys a quick reminder of how this particular mechanic works, these are the Domination cards that are drawn at the end of each age, depending on the player that had the most remaining knowledge of a certain type.
Exactly.
So if you have the most knowledge in religion left over, you are going to be able to take the Oracle card, and what she allows you to do is every time an Omen card should be drawn, you instead draw 2, and you choose which one.
On top of scoring the points for the card as you usually do, that remains the same.
Yeah.
And there we go. I think we've talked about, we've gone through all the mechanics. This expansion really is simple than that. It's very simple, but changing the whole objective scenario, making each of the players compete, leads to a lot more player interaction, a lot more decisions to make during the game. Do I change my strategy? Do I just let others have the points?
Yeah.
Bearing in mind it's 50 points per age.
Yes.
Which is a lot of points.
That's
150 points during a full game, which is a lot of points.
Yeah.
You're gonna want to contest or win some of them. You really don't want to lose all of them to your opponents.
Especially in a two-player game.
Especially in a two-player game. Yeah. But it all depends. Do you think you can get those points back by not adapting? Because if all the other players are going insane trying to adapt to the objective each turn, and maybe not getting as much added value from their trees and their cities and their monuments as they normally would if they were following their standard objective cards and their plan, are you better off just following your plan and making up those points somewhere else?
Yeah.
That is a question to ask yourself. And once again, you just have to adapt and change and evolve along with the objectives during the game.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I find this expansion really adds to the game is, as well as the adaptability that Jamie just mentioned, where you really have to be prepared to switch strategies as you run, there's also quite a lot more interaction between players. Yes. You have to pay attention to what everyone else is doing. You cannot afford to just sit back and You already do in Dominations, especially towards the end of the age, because you need to know if you know, you can expect to get certain domination cards, if you can expect to get certain things. This kind of ups the ante on that even more. You are really going to be keeping an eye on what everyone else is doing. So, yeah. And the cool thing about this is the reason that we didn't actually set up a game of Dominations to show you this is that the whole expansion is played within the box.
Yes. You can play without the box, you can lay the tiles on the table, but it is designed not only to store the components easily and quickly, but to be played as such so everybody can see all the cards, all the tiles that are in play during the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you have it. That is Hegemon. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If you were still a little bit on the fence about getting it, hopefully this has helped you to make a decision. As I mentioned at the start of this video, Hegemon is currently available in stores. A good game store near you. And yes, we will be back soon with more Dominations expansion videos. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
Have a lovely day.